Hmm.
Is it?
My
Is the music not playing?
It's
Oh, no.
not. It just
crap.
didn't play. I pressed the button and it lit up and then didn't play. Let me load the profile again. Here we go. Okay, let's mute this. Let's mute this. Let's turn you up and let's try it one more time. Interesting. I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out.
Okay. What if I hum the bass line and you hum the banjo?
Oh my god.
The problem is we'll probably be in the wrong key to each other.
I have no idea. Hold on. I just tried to re-add the sample. And
this is hilarious.
none of my samples work. They're all just not working.
That's one thing that we don't test beforehand.
I did not test this.
Fuck. This is hilarious.
This is not at all hilarious.
This is that organic experience we're always talking about.
I can't even hit the do it live button right now. Do you have any idea how out of my element I am?
Dude, are you okay? You didn't stage that, did you?
No, I did. I know.
This is a fantastic segue for being outside of your comfort zone.
That is actually very true.
Hold on. I have an idea.
No, I've got this. I can just pull I could get VLC Media Player to play the file.
Well,
and I think it's oh.
Wait, hold on. Can you hear this?
I fast. Hello and welcome to this week's episode.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That's the podcast that improves itself, improves ourselves, and improves the self in general. However, we do not improve the intro, apparently. My name is Ty. I'm going to be your host this week. I'm joined today by my festive co-host Distance. How are you doing today?
By your uncomfortable co-host Distance.
Very much so. Dude, Merry Christmas, by the way. It is Christmas Day that we are recording this. I don't know when you are going to be hearing this. It will go live on like YouTube and other formats tomorrow. So maybe like Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. How about that? How about that, guys?
Oh God, that was hilarious. Okay.
That was honestly, not planned, but that was a perfect start to the beginning of an episode about stepping out of your comfort zone. That is actually perfect.
I don't know how much of that you're actually going to upload onto.
Probably all of it. Probably every little second of that.
It was pretty funny. Very organic. Like I said, that's that organic experience that we're looking for with this.
I am interested as to what is causing the issue, because not only so the samples from my mixer are not playing, but then also whenever I tried to play the file via VLC media player, I didn't hear any audio there either. So there's a bigger issue going on. I don't need to worry about that right now though, because our audio is going to the stream, and that's the only thing that matters for the podcast. So we are good at this point. So yeah, as we were just mentioning today, we are talking about the idea of a comfort zone. And along with that, how important it is to step out of your comfort zone, what it means to step out of your comfort zone, and I guess along with that, how to make sure that you do that, because I think that a lot of us we end up with a comfort zone that becomes mainly a cage that I don't know how often we consciously realize that we are spending too much time in said comfort zone or in said cage, but it's important to step outside of that. And I think that's the main goal, that at least the main goal of what I want to talk about tonight. So where are you approaching this topic from? What are your opinions on a comfort zone?
Well, I mean, to be quite honest, this is one of the things where I don't know that I necessarily have a lot of it figured out. It's something that I haven't necessarily thought about a whole lot, at least not in the terms of being deliberate about getting out of it. Because there's actually a lot of things that I'm comfortable with that most people think of as being very uncomfortable.
Like what kind of examples? What do you mean by that?
Conflict doesn't bother me. Difficult conversations don't bother me. I don't have a problem with being honest with people about things that upset me about them. I'm not uncomfortable about hearing constructive criticism. A lot of it's just stuff that doesn't really bother me. I think over time I've gotten a lot better with maybe having unpleasant or difficult conversations. So maybe, I don't know if I've just worked on that or if I've just experienced it.
I think you'd probably have to. I don't think there's anyone that's going to be like necessarily predisposed for that being more comfortable. I think it has to be like a learned thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've never been particularly uncomfortable in social situations.
Okay.
So that's something that I haven't had to work on, and I think that that might contribute to, like I said, particularly uncomfortable. I mean, there's certain things that do make me uncomfortable about social situations, but there's things like, actually, now that I think about it, there's more. I've worked on more of this stuff than I thought. Like, did I tell you the thing that I did about the cold?
As far as like just riding your bike in the cold? Is that what you mean? Or
oh no, before that.
No, I'm not sure. What do
so the way that I figured out to be more comfortable with the cold is what I did. I did it for like a month or two, where I would wake up in the morning and walk outside in my boxers and my t-shirt.
Okay.
In the cold, and like stand out there for like a minute and a half.
Yeah, I mean that'll get you more accustomed to it. That makes sense. Yeah.
It really sucked, but it really does wake you up. It's kind of like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and but it's like people like in Colorado or like South Dakota would be like, oh, you don't know real cold. So I didn't go outside like in that kind of cold. Like, it'd be like 20 something or 30 something, like nothing that bad.
That's still cold. I mean, as far as just being like,
not
trying to be like a dick, it's like just objectively cold for the human body. That is the type of weather that if you're in it for long enough, you can have problems with exposure, right? Like it's cold.
Yeah, but it's not cold enough that like going out there like in my underwear and t-shirt would like be particularly harmful for 90 seconds. But if you go at like negative 40-degree weather in your underwear, then that just makes you a moron. It doesn't mean that you're trying to get better at anything, because you'll probably end up overwhelming yourself. And I also did a thing where I would like do like a cold rinse at the end of all my showers.
I used to do that. Yeah.
That's not pleasurable.
Not at all. No, but you did that specifically for the purpose of just acclimating yourself to cold weather.
Yeah, I've always been sort of a sissy about the cold, and I just decided that was something that I wanted to do to get better at it. And now I'm not nearly as bothered by it. Like there's times where I was out with some friends Saturday, and we were outside, and one of them mentioned like, oh, it's real cold out here. Is there a reason why we're standing out here? And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess it is. But I don't notice it like I did anymore, because I just got tired of being such a little sissy about the cold all the time. So I was like, I'm just like gonna do stuff that sucks. And that's kind of since I'd already done that, it made it less difficult to ride my road bike in the cold.
That makes sense.
But riding the mountain bike in the cold is another story. Because have you noticed that when you fall down or hit something in the cold, it like hurts way, way more?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know exactly why, but yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, and I think there's like other things that I'm sure we'll get to in the course of this discussion that I think I've maybe had to get outside of my comfort zone with. The thing is, though, is that like as you do different things and try different things, your comfort zone gets much larger.
Yes.
So it becomes more challenging to get out of it.
Well, that is one thing that I wanted to start with. An idea that I kind of had looking at the concept for this episode was, so I mean, part of it is playing devil's advocate, because I definitely understand and recognize the importance, and I would say necessity, of learning to step outside of your comfort zone. But I do want to introduce the idea of a lot of what we do as humanity and a lot of the progress that we make is almost in the vein of comfort. We specifically seek to do things to make things more comfortable, if that makes sense. It's like, so it's interesting to me to think of that. It's like, well, yeah, of course, obviously we want to learn to step outside of our comfort zone when it comes to things that are holding us back, or things that we need to learn how to do, or things that we need to be a part of. But at the same time, there is a benefit to constantly working to better the human experience and make it more comfortable. There's a reason why we, right now we have, just like electricity, like, like having access to that does almost nothing but make our lives more comfortable. And I know that is a different version of comfort than what we're really aiming to talk about. But at the same time, I do think that it kind of falls in line to acknowledge that there is a benefit to comfort. However, I guess I think probably where we're going to get to is along the same lines of a lot of the topics we talk about, is there has to be some level of balance, and being constantly comfortable is negative. I mean, it's a positive experience in the regards that you're literally enjoying the time you're spending in comfort. But as far as as far as personal growth goes, you're not pushing any of your boundaries, and you're not going to grow in any way by spending time in a comfortable environment, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. I think that the reason why a lot of the things you're talking about have happened is that we've thought about it as a quality of life increase, or or progress, because it's, moving towards something different that makes us more comfortable. So it's a good thing, I guess. But it's interesting because I didn't really think about that, but you're correct. There's a lot of people now that are sort of inventing struggles for themselves.
We kind of have to, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think that part of the human experience is needing to have something to struggle against. And when you're born into an existence where there is no actual struggle, I think sometimes you have to invent that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I forget who it was. I do not remember who he was talking to, but Ryan Mickler on the Order of Man podcast was talking to a guest that was talking about that sometimes life will offer you challenges. And when that happens, you just need to rise to that occasion and be prepared and fulfill whatever challenge is necessary, and then do that. But when life is getting to the point where it's comfortable and it's not offering you any kind of difficulties or struggles, then you can create your own.
Yeah.
That sometimes life is going to throw you a curveball and stuff's going to be really, really, really awful for a period of time, or really difficult. And when that's happening, well, life's doing it for you. So there's really no need to.
Yep.
But in the situations where stuff's like, getting comfortable and boring and not challenging you, then you can always invent something.
Well, I think it's worth exploring. What are the consequences if you don't? I think that's like the issue of like a king's life from a long time ago that we would talk about, where if you don't actually have anything you're struggling towards or working towards, what is the fulfillment you will feel from life? My argument would be that there's not really a possibility for much.
Yeah. I mean, hedonism only takes you so far. I mean, pursuing pleasure only does so much for you. And there have been philosophers for like thousands and thousands of years. There have been celebrities and kings and famous people that have been telling us for a long time that, whatever this, wonderful, like charmed existence where you have everything that you want and everything you need all the time, like it's not really what it's cracked up to be. There's a dude. Is that a freaking Stein?
It is. It's a World of Warcraft Stein, actually.
Oh wow, that's hilarious.
It's got Ragnaros on it, and then like over here, there's me, one of the mages throwing a frostbolt. Yeah,
dude, that beer stein is like bigger than I am.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah.
Like I'm feeling insecure about my size right now because of that thing.
Yeah, no, my mom got it for me for Christmas though. It was a pretty sweet gift. I liked it.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah. Oh, I didn't mean to derail us that badly, but I couldn't see that and not say something. I have a feeling that as you were raising that up, he was like, he's going to say something about this.
This is one of those moments. If you are listening to the podcast and here's something you want to see, please check us out on YouTube. We have video versions of the episodes, and there may be more context to moments like that.
Yeah, so you can see the shine that's making me feel strange about my size, and you can also see how small I am, so you'll understand why that beer stein made me uncomfortable. But oh god, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, we're talking about like if there's benefits to being comfortable. I just can't get over that thing. Every time you lift that up, it's going to take me a couple times before I get used to it. There's really not much, and I think that you can't really pursue a lot of meaning when you have everything you want and everything's easy. There's I refer back to it a lot because I mean it's essentially a self-help book, but I like the way that it's written. And 12 Rules for Life, one of Jordan Peterson's rules is pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Okay. And there's a lot of stuff that's easy. But it's not necessarily meaningful, and it's not meaningful because it's easy. A king's life sounds pretty boring to me.
Yes, but it brings me to the question, though. It's like, is there the reason why we strive for comfort in certain areas is, I mean, of course, for a lot of people, it probably is just for the idea of having a actual comfortable life. Even though they probably realize that it's not an opportunity for growth, I think there are a lot of people that would be completely happy with an existence that is strictly comfortable and is not offering them any chance for growth or progression. I think there's a lot of humans that would probably be fine with that. The other side of that, though, is there a benefit to making certain parts comfortable, and that way allowing you the opportunity to have other struggles that may be more beneficial? Because it's like, for instance, I mean, looking at the life we live right now, we've taken away the idea of having to struggle for our food every day. Mm-hmm. And maybe because that area is covered, it lets us have more deep struggles that could give us bigger benefit to growth, rather than saying like, oh, well, shit, now I've got to spend X number of hours today worrying about my food. Do you think that could be a positive benefit to that, or a positive side to that?
There's a quote that I don't know if I can remember it right now, but I've mentioned it on the podcast before. Oh yeah. It was in one of the offices of one of the VPs at work. And the quote is, happiness is the ability to fret over whether or not you are happy.
Yes.
So the fact that the deeper struggles you're talking about, I'm assuming it's like that we're not predisposed. Most of us are not predisposed with survival. So we have more bandwidth available and more thought available for us to ponder things like that, like being happy or being fulfilled and things like that. So I think I see what you're saying is that, you know, if you're at a point where you can maybe feel like content or feel happy, or I don't even think happiness is a thing to strive for, but
yeah, I agree.
I think happiness for a lot of people just ends up being comfort. So
yeah,
if you're in a point in life where there's really nothing to struggle for, then you'll have other things that you can figure out, I guess, to improve.
Yeah. I would say that some of them offer the like more potential for improvement.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, well, which things would you say in particular? Because I heard you say that the food thing, but
yeah,
what things in particular would you say allow us what particular opportunities for improvement?
Well, I guess like in my mind, when I was forming that sentence, I was looking at like the daily struggle for food. If you lived in a time where that was, you wake up and it's like, okay, well, shit, we don't have refrigeration, we don't have, crops, now I need to harvest my food for today by hunting and gathering. That is then necessity that is placed on your day that is going to eat up X number of hours of time and effort and everything just to cover basic needs of life. Whereas if you already have that bit covered and that bit, quote unquote, comfortable, that is in your, saying like, oh, I've got food in the fridge, I don't need to worry about how I'm going to eat today. It allows you to have the opportunity to deal with some other struggles that may be, for lack of the better term, maybe somewhat deeper, or allow you more benefit, give you the bigger chance to grow. I guess, like, in my mind, the actions that you would go through just securing your food for that day, while they're valuable, they seem to be, they boil down to a routine where I don't know how much you're learning after a while versus like other struggles that you could actually learn and adapt from and possibly grow. But I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, it does, I think. We've talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs on here before, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forget what episode it was.
I feel like a lot of that has to do with what we're talking about, because in this particular idea of comfort, all those things have to kind of happen. Like, I'm actually just reading the pyramid right now. I'm just quoting straight off of it. So physiological needs, then safety needs, then love and belonging, then esteem, and then self-actualization. And it's interesting because when you describe it in the terms that you're using right now about looking for food and that being a routine, it almost sounds like the idea that we have a comfort zone is very connected to survival. Because if you're doing something uncomfortable outside of like a civilization where there's rule of law, that's probably something that's going to harm you or get you killed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, there's all kinds of stuff that's like left over in our genes that is not necessarily needed anymore in every situation that we have to sort of deal with.
Yeah.
And it's like there's some benefit to having that degree of comfort sometimes, because it's like, if I go out and I ride a bicycle 35 miles in the blistering cold, if I don't have a comfortable place to come back to recover, then that's a problem. And I won't be able to have the time for my body to adapt properly and for me to be like in a comfortable space for my body to have a break and for me to kind of de-stress from the event.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think that is one big important part that we may overlook, is there is an extreme benefit to the struggle, and there is a detriment to living a life of solely comfort. I think we both agree on that. And I think that's almost like not debatable, really. But at the same time, living a life of solely stress is incredibly detrimental too.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. And, we talked about that like on the stress episode too, that, there's a need for compression and decompression, or winding and unwinding. But there's, and if you don't mind me changing gears a bit, there's a lot of the time people talk about being in an echo chamber. Or being inside a box of like, always being exposed to the ideas that you agree with. And in a lot of ways, like media, like suggestion algorithms contribute to that to some degree. And that can be like a detriment to people as far as like hearing different opinions and things like that. Because like we were actually talking I guess off the air before we came on about how I was saying how I was like pretty extreme lefty, like bleeding heart, super liberal guy. And I got to the point where I actually started to listen to people that had different ideas than me.
That's dangerous,
and
man.
I know. And I started to recognize that some of those ideas were actually not terrible. And a lot of them made sense. And I got to the point where I was like, there's no reason for me to tick all these boxes and call myself this title, when the reality is that the world is much more complex and ideas are much more nuanced than a label for me. and making assumptions about people. Like, for instance, like white supremacists. A lot of the time, those people have never really met or hung out with someone from another ethnicity.
Yes, that is very true.
Or they've had like 2 or 3 interactions with someone of another ethnicity in a public space and made a negative assumption because maybe that one person was a problem.
Yeah, they happen to interact with like a stereotype of a certain race.
Or they watch a movie where there's stereotypes everywhere in movies. There a lot of the stereotypes that we believe to be true about certain groups of people, and not just ethnic groups, a lot of them are perpetuated by television. Yeah, and they actually have nothing to do with those people at all. Like there's nothing grounded in reality. But there's I don't remember the lady's name, but she did like this documentary thing. She was a British person who had parents from Iran, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe it was Pakistan. I realize that those countries are worlds apart, but they're different in some ways and similar in others. But she met up with these like American white supremacists, and they agreed to talk to her. And one of the guys in the group later on, after she'd finished the documentary, he actually reached out to her and told her that he couldn't be in a white supremacist group because he considered her to be his friend.
That's interesting.
It by him going outside of, I guess, his comfort zone of like just surrounding himself with white people that felt the same as he did, he felt this sort of dissonance almost in meeting her and realizing that, oh wait, this is not my ideology isn't really sound, like it doesn't work. And I think that's just one example where getting into a space that you're not familiar with or not comfortable with can actually be beneficial. And it's also it's the idea of like, because like the reason why people want to plug their ears and hum when someone that thinks something different than they do is because people oftentimes wrap their identity up in their ideas. Yes. And that you somehow like feel like this identity itself is challenged by someone talking to you and having a different opinion. Like I was out with a couple of friends from work a while ago, and they got into it hard about economic theories. Mm-hmm. And they got to the point where one of them like really upset the other guy.
Over economics, really?
Yeah, well, like economic structures and systems of government actually.
Oh, okay, so more about the policy
specifically. Yeah, but related specifically to the economics of those type of government systems.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they got to the point where, well, it was interesting because it was like they were just like shouting over each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's partially hubris or arrogance, or narrow-mindedness, or partially because they were uncomfortable with the other person's ideas. Mm-hmm. I think that if ideas make you feel, when you hear an idea that differs from one of yours and you feel as if it's threatening your survival, you need to really reassess, what it is that you consider to be, bad or abhorrent or immoral.
I think that's a very good point that not enough of us ever actually consider, but that's like, it bears to be heard again, that like, if someone is introducing an idea that your reaction to it, your identity feels threatened, there's something deeper there that needs to be looked at.
And I think boundaries are one thing, because there's not just boundaries between you and other people, but there's boundaries between yourself and other ideas. But I think the major point that I want to make with the idea that I was like very far left about certain things was that that's actually not being far anything or extreme anything is never a reasonable ideology, no matter what it is. Like even extreme kindness is not good, because it'll actually harm you as a person, because you'll get to the point where you're being so altruistic that you're actually causing harm to yourself.
Well, there's a reason why we're using the word extreme, right? Like, because with necessity of it being extreme, that means that it's like to the extent that something is out of balance.
Yeah, it's too far.
Yeah.
You know, that's what. But for me, it's like there's some ideas where like there's one particular thing that I'm super conservative about, and that's personal responsibility.
Okay.
But that's like the one thing that I would say like I'm way out there on that one. But that's one of the very conservative ideas that I have that I think is really beneficial. And some of it's like, you know, there's other things scattered around here and there. But I think that being able to actually decide, I'm going to listen to these people that think differently and have different opinions than I do, and I'm going to try to figure them out. Because the thing is these were people that it was the same thing, like almost, well, I don't want to compare myself to a white supremacist, but it's the same thing, that the reason why it's a similar thing, that I wasn't exposed to these ideas. And then when I recognized that some of these ideas that were thought of as being like conservative actually made sense, I was like, well, I don't think I can call myself a lefty anymore.
See, I had almost the same experience, but opposite, if that makes sense, where it was like, while identifying as someone on like the quote unquote far left, there were ideas being introduced by people that I was supposed to be aligning with then that really rubbed me the wrong way. And it was like I had to do it was like the same experience but opposite, where it wasn't other ideas that I were like, oh, hold on, this is actually reasonable. It was like ideas coming from my side that was like, hold on, this is completely unreasonable. Why do I feel like I align with these guys when they're you know, spouting off an idea that I think is ridiculous? But,
yeah, so you essentially dropped a label.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And yeah, that's good. I mean, at least you know, instead of ticking all the boxes saying like I'm supposed to be this, so I'm going to be this, like it's good that you actually took the time to examine it or like listen to it or think rationally, because a lot of people don't. Well,
exactly. I think the important thing is like, I feel like you kind of touched on it right there. I feel like a lot of people are they like identify as something and say, okay, because I am a conservative, I need to believe X, Y, and Z, rather than taking a like inventory of their beliefs and saying, okay, I believe X, Y, and Z, so what does that make me? I feel like a lot of people do it from the other side, where it's like I've ran into people just like having discussions with people where it's like they seem to like it's all identity politics, and it's so strange that it's like, okay, I'm gonna identify with this group, so that means I need to believe all these things in Basket A, whether or not they actually identify with those beliefs or not. It's like all of a sudden it becomes part of what they need to ascribe to their belief system. It's a really interesting way of doing things, and I'm so like I'm fascinated by it, but at the same time frightened by it, because it seems to be a lack of critical thought.
Agreed. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And some people might actually be uncomfortable with critical thought.
True. Yeah, that's a great way to bring it back. Yeah,
because it forces you to go outside of where you're comfortable.
Well, exactly. I mean, that is required for thinking critically. Yeah,
it's true. Very true. Wow. I knew that there was going to be some validity to that point, but I didn't recognize how valid it was going to get.
True.
Dude, we're so valid. This is so validating.
We just validated the hell out of that. Oh,
so valid.
But no, that is a great point though, is that like actual, and I really didn't think about that until that sentence either, but it's like real true critical thinking involves seeing things from both sides. You have to be an actual critical thinker. You have to step outside of your comfort zone and think of the topic at hand from another side that you're not comfortable being. And that is like, that's an incredibly important exercise, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that is a really simple way anybody can get outside of their comfort zone at this very moment. You know, I think that's cool. And the thing is actually like, you know, you hear me talk about Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, quite often, but there's a lot of shit that comes out of his mouth that I'm like, bro, like, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah.
Or there's other things where I'm like, man, yeah, you stated that so badly. Like I get what you're saying, and I agree with that perspective, but you're representing it so badly. and like I think a lot of it has to do with tribalism, and tribalism is part of this whole comfort zone thing, because we feel comfortable when we're surrounded by groups of people that we feel like, or we feel included by.
Yeah.
And I think that it's good to step out of that sometimes, go to a place where you're not comfortable, because I can tell you, like, so I talk about firearms on here sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think I said at some point in the past, I've said that for a long time I was like Mr. like martial artist guy that didn't like guns.
Yeah.
Mainly because I saw it in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, since I do like hand-to-hand combat sports, like I need to not like guns. That's what we do. And I was like, also, I mean, I'm a liberal, so I can't like those.
Yep.
And then there's the day that I went to the range, and I was very uncomfortable because I was surrounded by
who did you go with?
So there was a girl I was dating. She had a friend who was kind of dating her roommate, but he was her friend before that.
Before you added the word roommate, that sentence was really interesting, because you were like, there's a girl that I was dating, and then she had a friend who was kind of dating her. And I was like, at that point in the sentence, I was very lost. But once you added roommate, it started to make more sense.
Kind of dating her. Yeah. Roommate.
Yeah.
And he invited me and another friend. We were one of his good friends liked UFC, and he invited us over to their place to watch UFC on pay-per-view. And then they started talking about he said like the normal like thing. So the opposite, like the gun person that doesn't know how to fight with their hands. He was like, man, what if I had a gun? These guys aren't tough. And I was like, what? I was like, well, they're in a ring with a referee and rules. Like,
what does that even mean?
The context in which they fight. Why are you even comparing these two things?
Yeah.
And then he was like, he was like, do you know anything about guns? I was like, bro, I'm a liberal. I didn't actually say that, but I was like, no, man, I hate guns. He's like, well, have you ever shot one? I was like, no. He's like, do you want to? I was like, I mean, not really. I've never thought about it. He was like, well, if you're going to talk shit about them, then maybe you should experience it. And I was like,
that's fair.
Fuck, he's right.
Yeah, that is
like,
fair.
God damn it. Fine. I'll shoot your big, scary gun. And so I went to the range, and when I came in there was like dudes that like at the range, like pretty much all the people that work there like have a holster, and they have a handgun on their hip, which like all of them do.
I would say, I don't want to like derail us, but I would say that is fair for most things. There are some things that even if you're not willing to try it, it's okay to say that's not for me. Like for instance, heroin. If you're not into heroin and like someone's trying to like, well, dude, don't knock it until you tried it. I think it's fine to say like heroin's just not for me. Certain things you do need to actually experience before knocking it. I would say that firearms are probably one of those, but yeah.
There's plenty of things that we cannot make an inclusive statement that everything should be experienced.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this case, it was like I have a opinion of this thing, and I've never done this before. Mm-hmm. And I went in there, and there's like dudes that work there with pistols on their hip, and there's people in camouflage and lots of very drawly Southern accents. And then there's one dude that looks like a fucking lawyer. I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's he doing here?
Yeah.
I was like, because like all the stereotypes were like, what? But then I was like, wait a second. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy. The guys that I'm here with aren't even the stereotype that I'm thinking of.
Yep.
And like my forehead was actually kind of sweaty. Like I was actually very nervous. And then we stepped out there, and I was like, he like explained things to me, and they made us watch a safety video before we stepped out on the range, which was good. And then he explained things. Do what?
I'm trying to remember if I had to do that or not. I don't think we had a safety video when I went and shot.
Yeah, this place, there certain ranges are a little more hardcore than others.
Okay.
But a lot of the time and like larger rangers, a lot of the time will have a like official out, like sort of a range officer or whatever that you can like ask questions of.
Gotcha.
But at the ranges where like there's a mechanical thing that moves things back and forth, there's no reason to call a cold range.
Yeah.
Because like no one's gonna walk out to check a target or anything like that. It's gonna come to you. But I was explaining like the gun and what the controls did, and like how to drop the magazine, and how to reload it, and how to rack the slide, and how to load the magazine. Like I loaded my own. And then I, sat there really nervous because I'm like, oh man, I've seen movies. And I said it a while ago, but it was like that first round, just like the boom. And I was like, that was so cool. I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And it's like, can I do that again? It's like, yeah, dude, there's 10 more rounds in that magazine. I was like, fuck yeah, 10 more times.
But you had shot,
like, how many bullets do we have?
You had at least shot like pellet guns or BB guns and stuff before that, right?
No.
Really?
Never had a BB gun. Never had a pellet gun.
Wow. Okay.
I'd never done anything like that. I'd never fired a projectile out of anything that resembled a gun. Ever.
Wow. Okay.
So I'd never done anything, and I was like, I think I was 20, 21, 22, 23, somewhere in there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I mean, I was pretty young, but then the thing I realized is that like, that this is actually a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. And then I thought, why was I talking all this trash? And the fact that I decided to be like, you know what, you're right. Okay, I'll go do this thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you've shot before. That noise is very scary. It's very, very loud.
You were in ear protection, of course, right?
Yeah, like because when it went pop, I was like, I understand immediately why they made me wear these ridiculous earmuffs.
What were you? What were you shooting for your first time? What was the firearm?
Calibers.
Well, I mean, just caliber and like make and.
Oh, what?
Yeah, what was the actual firearm?
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant where. I was at Caliber shooting range.
Oh, gotcha.
That was a Ruger LC9 9mm.
A 9mm. Okay.
And then one of the other guys had a 40 caliber
time.
Glock. I forget what model. It was a standard size frame 40 caliber Glock. I forget what model that one is.
Gotcha. My first time I was firing it was a Luger, like actual, like a World War II rebuilt Luger. I don't know what.
You hipster.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, it was like a literal, like, it was like a Nazi officer held this in 1943. But I don't know what caliber those are though. But I don't remember the for me, like, it was a lot of fun, but it's interesting hearing you recount that. The moment of the first round did not at all make an impression on me. It was still fun. I still enjoyed it, but it was like, I don't know if it's because I had already fired a lot of, like, I'd owned pellet guns and BB guns and stuff like that, and I'd shot in my backyard a lot, and then maybe was the caliber of the gun smaller to where it wasn't that loud of a discharge or whatever. But it's like, that moment to me was not as marking as it was to you, I guess. Even though I really enjoyed it, I still like had a great time. It just that like that first round does not stand out to me at all as like as a memory, which I think is interesting. I
think for me, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I was paying so much attention to what was happening, because I didn't understand recoil or like what was going to happen. I didn't know, like, after I pull this trigger, I've got squeeze, not pull. After I squeeze this trigger, I've got no fucking clue what's about to happen. Yeah. And I was paying so much attention to it, and I think it's the fact that I was so surprised by what occurred afterward.
Other than like knowing like there is a contained, controlled explosion that is going to happen right here. Yeah. Which is kind of a cool idea.
And that big flash comes out of the end. Like, people don't like, it doesn't look like, it doesn't look the same on film as it does when you actually have it happen directly in front of you. Like, nothing can compare to that. But yeah, it's like, but I mean, not to talk too much about it, but that was an experience where I got outside of my comfort zone, and I was able to get something out of it. And
well, I would argue too, that's an experience that widened your comfort zone rather than getting out of it. Like, you stepped out of it, but you made that now your comfort zone. Yeah.
I mean, I'm now pretty comfortable with firearms, and they don't really scare me like they did. And I've shot a lot of things since then. Like, I've shot a couple different shotguns. I've fired 30 caliber rifles. You want to talk about recoil? Yeah. Actually, the first time I shot a shotgun, I had a yellow bruise on my shoulder because I was holding it wrong.
Ooh, yeah, that sucks.
Someone corrected me after the first couple shots, but those first two just bruised the shit out of my shoulder.
That sucks.
But we shot for a while too. He had like little clays that we were shooting at. That was a lot of fun.
I had a friend that got to shoot a full auto Mossberg shotgun. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. That would be really cool.
Wow. That's outside of my comfort zone.
Right?
That sounds kind of scary. Yeah. Maybe I'll try it. And then there's like there's also like ways where I've realized that in preparing for this episode, I picked up one of my bases the other day, and I recognized that I'm doing the same style of stuff, and I haven't progressed in my playing at all. And it's because all I do is pick up the instrument and do whatever I do and just whatever I'm comfortable with. And I'm not getting any better. And like for a while, I didn't know that I really cared about getting better because I'm not playing in bands because everyone's like married and has jobs and no one really has time to play anymore. But I also think like, why am I even doing this if I'm not getting better? So I decided to learn. Have you ever listened to the bass line for Hot for Teacher by Van Halen?
Not that I can, not specifically. No. I couldn't hum the bass line right now if I tried. No.
It's pretty difficult to play with your fingers. I'm pretty sure he uses a pick. But that's something that I'm actually going to do. Is I'm actually going to learn that. Actually, after the podcast is over, I'm going to pick up my bass and learn it. But it was just something that I realized like, well, I can't, if I've realized this and I'm about to do a podcast about this, like I have to like not be a hypocrite.
Yeah, exactly.
And like fucking do it. Like I have to actually get outside of my comfort zone in this regard.
Well, that brings me to an interesting question. Are there any situations where it would be acceptable and maybe the like correct course of action? Maybe correct is the wrong word to use there. But are there any situations where it would make sense to try to step out of your comfort zone, realize something isn't for you, and go back? Or is should it almost always be a growth of your comfort zone?
Well, I think that you can recognize that you don't have an aptitude for something, or you can recognize that something's not necessarily for you, so to speak, but not be uncomfortable with that thing.
Exactly. That's what I was like. I was trying to think of the gun range example where it's like there's a good chance that you could have taken that opportunity, gone and tried to shoot and just not enjoyed it. And that like leaving that situation, I would argue that you became more comfortable with it, but you still realize that it wasn't for you. So it's not still like, I guess, I don't know, the term comfort zone becomes kind of strange at that point then, because it's like I wouldn't consider the act of shooting in your comfort zone, even though you've tried it. And you get what I'm saying? Like it's not actually in your quote unquote comfort zone, even though it maybe doesn't actually make you uncomfortable any longer. It may just be a semantic thing, I guess, for me. But that like the term comfort zone there seems to be like it's almost in your comfort zone then, but it's not. Like
if you look at the comfort zone in a way that is like defined like by psychology, it's just a place where things feel familiar.
Okay.
And you're like at ease, or you feel like you're in control of something.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily something that you would be like good at, but it's like, I think that once, if I had been at the range that day and I had shot and I didn't really find it exciting, which it sounds like for you, you were just kind of like, well, okay, I did that.
Well, I definitely enjoyed it. But it was like, it just, I noticed it was just interesting hearing you speak about it. It seemed like that moment of the first round going off made a distinct memory to you, or felt a certain way that didn't resonate with my experience, which I just think was interesting. I did definitely enjoy it. And if it was a more affordable hobby, I would probably be more inclined to get into it. But I've like looking at pricing, like, what kind of guns I would want if I wanted to become a collector and things like that. It's like, wow, that's a pretty expensive hobby. But
I mean, I don't know. I think I would never collect them. Yeah, I would never collect anything. I collected rocks when I was a kid, but being into firearms doesn't mean you have to collect them. Some people do, and some people aren't necessarily into firearms. They just happen to own a handgun.
True. Yeah. True.
But but it's also that like after the experience, if I decided this is not something that I necessarily enjoy, I would from that point forward I would not feel so uneasy about firearms, because I would have experienced it, held one, used one, and understood like how it feels. So like if I happened to see one, or I went to a friend's house, or like went to like a friend's parents' house and they were cleaning their gun, I wouldn't freak out or be weird about it. That it's something that doesn't scare me or frighten me. It's something that I've seen before, and that I know what they are, what they do, and what they feel like, and understand that it's not this little demon hiding in someone's pocket.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, that it does a part of this have to do with just the education and the understanding of a certain topic?
Yeah, I think there was, I don't remember, I don't know if it was staged or not, but on the subject of like education, that on like certain topics and things like that, is that, it was I don't know what country it was in, but it was I don't know, it seemed staged to me, but it was like a trans person on an African news show.
Okay.
Like in Africa, in which they're speaking English.
Okay.
And the interviewer or the host looks at the trans person and says, "So why would someone be gay?" Like, why are you asking me this?
Yeah.
I'm trans. So you are gay? Like, no, I'm not. I'm a trans man. So this means you are gay? Like, no, that's. And then it gets even weirder.
Yeah.
Shit gets weirder. Like,
dude, that sounds like Jesse
it's one
Lee
of the most
Peterson.
hilariously ignorant things I've ever heard anybody say.
Oh my God.
It seems really staged to me. Like, I refuse to believe that this person's really like that uneducated in like what these things mean.
Well,
and,
that was how I felt watching Jesse Lee Peterson. Remember, I texted you that day and I was like, this guy has to be trolling. There is no way that this is actually real. And you're like, no, I think he's serious, man. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's the sad thing, is that like that, I'm pretty sure Jesse Lee Peterson is 100% real. And if you haven't seen Jesse Lee Peterson, maybe don't.
Yeah, save yourself from some brain cells. Don't do that.
Yeah, please do. The other thing is that it helps you dispel some kind of stereotypes too. Like, it's there's occasions where like I think people have like there's an episode of that. Did you ever see that wife swap show?
I vaguely remember it. I don't know if I really saw any episodes of it though, but I know what you're talking about.
It was a show where there would be like one couple and a whole family and then another family, and they'd be profoundly different. So then you'd take the wife from one family, the wife from the other, and then they would just switch houses. And obviously it's reality TV, so it's like, let's create as much conflict as possible.
Yeah. And so did they ever actually fuck the other husbands?
That was a different show.
Oh, okay. That's the one I watched.
I'm talking about. This shit was on like this shit was on like TLC or something like that.
Gotcha.
I think, but there was one episode where this guy, I guess the mother of the sort of like, they were more like a rock and roll family, I guess, and like the super conservative like Baptist or something like that family.
Okay. Yeah.
The mom took the daughter when she was like at the home of the very conservative family, took the daughter to like a tattoo shop.
Okay.
And was going to get a fake tattoo put on her just to freak the dad out.
Yeah. Just to push buttons. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that the guy kept saying like, why would you take her? She is 17 years old. Why would you take her to a tattoo or porno shop? It's like, wait, what? And he kept saying like a tattoo or porno shop. And I was like, why are you associating tattoos with pornography?
Yeah. In his mind, they were just the same thing. Or that's interesting.
I guess.
Huh.
Or it's like,
okay.
When I tell people like, well, I was out one night with, it was a girl I was dating and a few of her friends that were visiting from like a Charlotte, an hour and a half away from us. And I know you know that. I was just saying that for viewers. And I was being serious because like there's actually a really, really fun gay club in Greensboro that I've been to, and like it's a lot of fun. Everybody's dancing, everybody's having a good time, and like everybody's super cool, and everyone's really friendly, and like you can just goof off and have a good time. And
it's named after a subject in school that I wasn't that good at. Yeah, I know it. I know the one you're talking about.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, yes. I was like, wait, what? Oh yeah, that is the name of a subject in school. And I was like, they were trying to, we were at like Jake's Billiards having a couple beers. And they were like, what do you guys want to do now? And I was like, and everyone was kind of fresh out of ideas. Like, do you want to go play pool? Like, I don't really like pool. Like, okay, there's a bowling alley down the road. I don't really want to bowl. Well, there's another brewery down the road that we could go have some more beers at. Like, we're having beers here. I was like, hey, do you guys want to go to the gay club? And I was like, because I was excited.
Who were you
like,
with? Who was the group you were with?
It was this was at the point where I dabbled in Christianity.
Okay.
So I was a girl I was dating who grew up like in like a more square, like boring kind of church. Like I think her parents were Methodist or some shit. And then she ended up going to like a charismatic church, which is basically like Pentecostals, but a little less crazy.
I've never heard that term before. Charismatic church? Huh.
Yeah, I mean, look it up. It's kind of like, it's one of the more nutty movements. Then there's they're like the New Apostolic movement, and they're essentially they're pretty similar. Okay. That's another thing that I actually got really comfortable with churches and Christians in general by dabbling in Christianity and like, you know, going to a church and speaking at that church and playing bass at that church, and hanging out with other like people that, you know, I became very comfortable with that. And that's not outside my comfort zone now either. And having discussions with religious people isn't weird for me either. Mm-hmm. But it was a couple and then another couple. There were two friends of hers. And these are all like church kid type people. Yeah. And then there was like another guy who was single, who was a friend of hers who he was a pretty cool guy. But you know, he's one of those guys that has like the stories that like people love to hear, where he was like, you know, dealing drugs and delivering pizzas, and then like he found the Lord or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, because the thing is the girl that I was with, like we'd been to a drag show together. Like she invited me to one with a friend of hers. And actually our friend Josh from high school was there. Did I tell you that story?
Yeah, I do remember that story.
Yeah. So there's the same person. Okay. So I already knew that she was comfortable with that. And like, it was funny because she didn't think I would be. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll go to a drag show with you. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I get hit on all the time at those.
She's like, you're like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You think I'm so much more vanilla than I really am.
Yeah. I am definitely butter pecan, Neapolitan, mint chocolate chip, all put together with some hot fudge on top. Emphasis on hot. But when I said this, like the other couple was kind of like, well, you know, they sort of had this look on their face like, huh, like fancy that. Like we're not opposed to this, but never thought of that as a thing to go to. Mm-hmm. But then the other guy that was a friend of hers was like, I'm a little too straight for that. I was like, why did his voice suddenly get really deep?
I know, right?
It's like, this is really weird. And I was like, what?
It was like the scene in Infinity War when all of a sudden like Quill and Thor were talking to each other, and Quill's voice all of a sudden starts mocking Thor. You will not
this
be
is how I always
talk. This is my voice. What are you talking about?
And like he did that, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, like that's a little ridiculous.
It's like your insecurities are pouring out of every orifice of your body right now, sir.
I'm too straight to enter this building that's designated. Like what? That doesn't even make any sense on any level. Like that's just so stupid.
Too straight for that. I'm like, bro, you're surrounded by straight people, and I've been to one. She's been to one. This couple is completely open to the idea. Yep. They've never been. They think it would be interesting to experience it. And I'm like, I wouldn't say you're too straight. I would say you're too insecure. I would say that you're too afraid of something different.
Dude, part of me wonders, like, is it scared that, is it the person scared that they're going to learn something about themselves?
I think so. I think in some situations people are bothered by or frightened by that. And, you know, it's, the other thing is, you know, you can't, there's another club that closed a while ago, but they had a sign that said, recognize that if you are here, you are a guest of the gay community. So recognize that if you are here and you're not part of our community, that we're welcoming you into ours. Yeah. And there are certain things that you know might happen. Like if you are in a gay club, people assume that you are gay.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
There are, if there's a gay man there that finds you attractive and you're male, he will come and he will talk to you. Mm-hmm. and he might tell you that you're cute, or he might tell you that you're gorgeous or whatever, and he might offer to buy you a drink. And a lot of the time when you're like, oh, hey dude, I know I'm at a gay club, but I'm straight. A lot of the time they're like, that is just too bad.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, well, it's cool that you're here.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. But yeah,
And
you have to realize you're talking to someone who in normal life, when they see someone they're interested in, they have a 10% chance of that person even reciprocating those feelings.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you have to realize like you're in their environment where it's like it's expected that you may be interested in that sexual preference. Like, you know, it's like it's not. It's so weird when people are offended by that, or like react in a way that it's like, dude, that is nothing but a compliment. Like you're out at a place where single people meet each other and someone expressed interest in you.
Yeah, because it should be more like, wait a second, you think I'm pretty? Like,
yeah,
thanks.
Exactly.
Hey.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And I think that some people just are bothered by that. And like, I don't understand why. Like, there's guys at work. Like, I said something about. It was like the same thing. I don't know what we were talking about, but somehow we got on the subject of, I don't know what the fuck we were talking about. Oh. One of the guys was giving me shit because I was wearing a pink shirt.
Okay. Yep.
Did I tell you about this?
I don't know if you went through like the whole story, but I do remember hearing about this situation though.
And he was like, it was like a pink V-neck, and he was like, hey man, nice pink shirt. And I was like, I'm sorry, is my shirt making you feel bi-curious?
Yeah. That's such a good question.
And he was like, what's that mean? I was like, is he playing dumb? Like, fuck it. So I was like, I'm going to say this in the most blunt fashion that will make him as uncomfortable as possible. I was like, it means you're trying to figure out if you want to fuck both chicks and dudes or not. He was like, oh, I ain't into that. And then one of the other guys was like, once again, that weird deep voice thing. He was like, well, I don't travel in those circles. And I was like,
I don't.
And I said something. I don't know what word I used in particular, but I said, I was like, they're just gay people, you fucking pussy.
Exactly. Like, yeah.
So it's like, it's like, okay, like I can be the macho man here too. Like, let's do it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Let's do that macho man thing. And that's the thing is like, it just means that you know, that you're very insecure about things. And I think that people that are uncomfortable being around homosexuals that are of the same gender, that it's the same thing. Once they like hang out with and like are around these individuals, then they're educated about this, and then they become comfortable in this place. It was
just like what we talked about with people that are like normally incredibly racist. Like more often than not, they just haven't interacted with anyone from another race before. They kind of grew up in a 100% white town, and they hear things about people of, you know, X race or whatever, and they just get an idea that that's what those people are like. They've never actually met someone of another race.
Yeah, and it's like, and there have been occasions where it's been like, let me get this straight. This gay guy, he's a mechanic and watches sports.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
That happens.
I didn't know they watched sports. Yep. It's like, what?
And there's also that straight guy over there that works as a male nurse and watches figure skating.
Yeah, and look how beautiful his hair is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah,
he doesn't go to a barber; he goes to a stylist. You know, it's like I just don't. It's just silly to me because the thing is that over half of the American population, regardless of ethnicity, watch some kind of sport.
Yeah, it's incredibly popular. Yeah.
Most people are into them. So it's like, I mean, statistically, more than likely, most of the people that you talk to will watch some kind of sport.
At this point in almost 2020, do you consider esports in that same category, or are those two different umbrellas to you?
I mean, I do.
Okay.
Because it's like, you know, we had the conversation the other day that if you want to say that someone wants to say, oh, that's so ridiculous that people get paid to play video games. Like, well, it's not any different than someone getting paid to kick a round ball into a net.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or like to smack a very thick, dense piece of black plastic or whatever the fuck a hockey puck is made out of into another net. Well, like, you know, where a guy wearing a suit of armor tries to stop him from getting it into that net. I mean, it's not any less ridiculous.
I was really lost on the hockey puck thing for a second there. I was like, thin?
Yeah, or like putting two guys, telling two guys to go into a cage wearing their underwear and beat each other up. I mean, that's like, and I've participated in all of those things except for hockey, and I recognize that it's a little silly, but it's fine. Like it's okay. But no, I would say that yes, I think esports fits into that.
Good, okay. I was just wondering out of interest, but yeah.
And that's the other thing is like, you know what? I just realized on the subject of video games, the reason why I have never played World of Warcraft is because it's outside of my comfort zone.
Oh shit!
Because I'm like, oh wait, you don't shoot people in that? I won't play it.
I think that means you need to start a trial account just to step out of your comfort zone. I think.
Then what are you gonna do to protect myself?
Yeah, that's good. You can think up something for me. I'm willing to step out.
Are you sure?
Yeah, dude, definitely. Yeah, dude. That is one
thing.
I'm
gonna need a couple weeks. I want it to be really good.
Dude, that is one thing that I really wish that I had. Like, this may be like an interest for like, a year in the future. Like a plan is, it would be so cool if I had an IRL streaming setup. And that way we could actually do shit like that would then be streamed. And you could say like, okay, here is your task. You're going to have to step out of your comfort zone. And that would be a stream later then where we're like actually IRL out at a bar and you make me do something. Or like, that would be so cool to have the technology to be able to do that. But an IRL setup are not that cheap though. But
I would definitely not tell you ahead of time.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that would be better content.
It would be very live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be fun. Actually, I think we should do that. Or I'll do some research. I mean, you put enough money into this shit already. Like, I may as well invest in like a rig or do some research at least for us to like do that. That would be really cool.
I think it would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know if you'd be interested in seeing that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'm sure everybody would be, but I mean, why wouldn't you be?
But I think that would be cool, giving it like a layer of like almost like homework. It's like, all right, if we're gonna work on this, what is a specific task we can do, and then let's actually like make content out of that specific thing. Like, I think that would be a cool idea. So
we have not touched on work though. We've not touched on vocations or jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually considered changing careers a few times, but I've never done it. And I don't know if it's because some people will disguise, they'll disguise fear with practicality.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you draw the line?
If that's something that I've been doing or not.
Well, exactly. Like, how do you draw the line between your area of expertise and your comfort zone? Because that's a Venn diagram where there's a lot of crossover, right? And it's like it makes sense to stick with a certain vocation because that is where your training experience is. But at a certain point, are you sticking there because it's your comfort zone, or is it because it's where your training and experience lie?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, even within your current career, there are things you can do that would be uncomfortable. Like, it was like, well, we're going to need you to install this switch. We're upgrading network switches. I'm like, I've never done that before.
Yep.
And I was like, they're paying me to do this. Fuck.
Yeah.
And so like I just did. It's really not that difficult. You like you mark a bunch of things, you unplug a bunch of things, and then you take some screws out, pull something off of a rack, put something on a rack, and then plug everything in.
Yeah. Like most things in 2019, it's like, okay, watch 2 YouTube videos. You pretty much can do it at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. Or like there's a point where it's like, well, we need you to install this new firewall. And I'm like, I've never done that before. But like, oh, this guy gave me very clear instructions on exactly what to do. So I can definitely do this.
Yeah.
So even though it was uncomfortable. By the way, guys, the firewall, it's a box. It's a fucking box. Okay. All the shit that you hear on Mr. Robot, it's bullshit. All this bullshit.
Are there any firewalls you can purchase that are just hardware or just software?
Yeah, there's like software firewalls, but I wouldn't really necessarily call them a real firewall.
Okay.
Like it just blocks certain communication ports on your local machine.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean that's pretty much all it does. Like I think there's a few of them out there, but the best or the most effective ones are like a piece of hardware that actually you plug shit into. Because there's a lot more management available on those. So yeah, so that's just stuff that like I wasn't super comfortable with before. I mean, when I started this company, I had to mess with Microsoft Exchange. I had to do like different things in Active Directory that I'd never done before, and it was just compounding things and stuff that like I'd never done. But now like my skill set is so massive. Like I've become a jack of all trades and a queen of others.
I like that.
We're going
Okay.
with the card suit thing.
I like that.
And that's kind of cool, I guess. But you know, like even like in your current career, there's stuff that you could, well, there's shit that you've taken responsibility for that they've actually been like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, but I can figure it out.
Yeah. Multiple times. Yeah.
So I think that, like, I mean, for you personally, I think that maybe sometimes you don't give yourself credit for stuff. And I think that there's certain situations that you've gotten outside of your comfort zone more than you would imagine you have, or more than you think you have, I think.
I think that's fair.
But it's a little different, you know, when it's your job, because it's like, do I want to not get a paycheck?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
In that case, you really don't have a choice. You know, it's pretty much, you want to keep your job, then do this thing, do that thing.
Well, and you're 100% right, where it's like, I mean, I know just, you know, in a vacuum, I'm bad at giving myself credit for things that I've done. But in situations like that, I know it's even worse, where it's like, just like you're saying, my mind thinks of it as just, oh, well, I had to do this for my job. I don't even think about like giving myself credit for like stepping out of my comfort zone. It's more just like, oh, well, you know, job that I required to do said do this, so I did it. Like, but yeah, I think you are right that it is a situation where I think probably a lot of us need to recognize that we do deserve more credit than we're giving ourselves, probably.
Yeah, because it's like, if you did it here, you can do it there. There's carryover everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I come back to it all the time, but it's relevant, at least for me personally, most of the time. When I first started riding bicycles again, it's like I was like doing it as like a hobby, and it was kind of fun. And, you know, like, I have muscular dystrophy, so it was difficult for me to ride. And then I had to learn a bunch of things that I didn't know about, and figure out like ratios and research technology to figure out if I could retrofit certain things in certain places that weren't necessarily meant to be used that way, and like end up with mountain bike cassettes on my road bike with like an adapter to, you know, change the pull of the shifter on the road bike to fit like a mountain bike cassette and all this other stuff. By the way, when I say cassette, listeners, it's that thing with the gears on the back wheel. Actually, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it. It actually looks like a big black circle on my bike. You can't see it that well.
Plus, not to mention, if anyone is watching this on YouTube, they are too young to know the other term of cassette. So there's no like.
Oh yeah,
they have no idea what a cassette tape is. So that's like not even something we need to worry about.
If you don't know what a cassette tape is, you're too young to date either of us.
True.
But yeah, there's all kinds of things I needed to research and figure out. And for me, I started just I had a little hybrid bike. I didn't even have that road bike behind me. And then I sort of tried to take my hybrid out on the mountain bike trail, and was like, this does not work.
Is the hybrid the lime green one, or is that a different frame altogether?
It was a GT Transio 2.0.
Okay.
That I do not have anymore.
Gotcha. Okay.
That thing was super heavy, but I really loved that bike. It was a really good hybrid. But I rode that thing downstairs and all kinds of shit. I beat the ever-loving shit out of that bike. It survived all of it. It was a great bicycle. I actually sold it to a guy with a bunch of really cool upgrades on it. Put way more money into that bike than it was worth. But it was good. It was a learning experience. I learned a lot of things, like did stuff that I'd never done before, bought tools I'd never used before. All that like outside of the comfort zone stuff, and bicycling did a lot for me with that. And so then there was the mountain biking thing. So I was like, I need a mountain bike because this little hybrid bike cannot handle this shit. So I bought like a real deal like trail bike, and then kept that for a while, sold it, upgraded to like an enduro bike with like full suspension with much longer suspension travel. And I've ridden in a couple scary places. Also, to plug my YouTube channel, there's not a lot of videos on it because I haven't spent much time on it really. It's called The Impossible Cyclist. If you watch the video for Kitsuma on there, it's a lot scarier in person than it looks on video. But then the thing that happened was, I thought to myself, when I started riding, I'd hear all these people talking about riding centuries, like they'd ridden 100 miles in a day. I'm like, that's fucking crazy. And then I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I kind of want to try that. So I trained up for it, and it was difficult. And then I screwed up the first time, and I didn't really make the distance I wanted, and I trained badly. And then I bought that road bike. Actually, I bought this road bike behind me. I bought it like 3 or 4 weeks before the actual event.
Oh, really?
I'd trained on my little green hybrid. I think that bike was actually sitting behind me on a couple of the past videos. But
you bought that before the first event or before the second? Before
the second one.
Okay.
So I had just a few weeks to actually get everything adjusted on that bike the way that I needed it, and order all the parts that I needed to put on it because it didn't work the way that it came for me, and try to fit the bike as well as I could. The saddle I bought like a week or two before the actual event. I had to figure out if it fit me well enough.
Okay.
It was nuts. I adjusted the bars as well as I could to get the fit right, and the pedal position and the cleats on my clip-in shoes and all that stuff. So then as I'm training for this event, I talked to a couple people at a couple bike shops, like road bike people that excuse me, sorry. Road bike people that are like, oh yeah, a couple of them were like, yeah, I did a double century. I was like, what?
Jesus, yeah.
It's like 200 miles in a day. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. And then I went and I did the actual event in April. And then I got done with 100 miles. And from that's fucking crazy, it went to,
I want to do that.
I think I'm going to try for 200. So the comfort zone keeps getting bigger. You know, the first time I rode 25 miles, that was 5 miles more than I'd ever ridden before. The first time I rode 40 miles, that was 15 miles further than I'd ever ridden before. And how far that after I hit I think it was the 60 or 65 mile mark on the day of the actual event, every single mile I did after that was the furthest I'd ever ridden a bicycle. So
that's actually kind of crazy to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so every single mile was my new record. And then I got to 100, and you know, it's and this is an experience, a personal account of something that can show people, like, that's what I've experienced, that if I can do this, you can, because you're made of the same shit I am.
Yep.
We're essentially the same kind of creature. So that's just an experience of how the increasing potential thing goes, and how your comfort zone will increase, and then you have to keep moving out of it as much as you can. And you know, the thing about this event is that I have to ride 100 miles twice while I'm training for this. So I have to do the old hardest thing I'd ever done twice before I do the new hardest thing I've ever done.
It's also interesting to point out too, that even though you set the goal and you accomplished it, and like you said, expanded your comfort zone, it's not like riding 100 miles is something you've done consistently since then. You haven't actually rode a century since the first time you did it, right?
Yeah, since April. So it's been like eight months, a little more than 8 months. And if I did it again, I'd have to train back up for it. So I'd be outside of my comfort zone again, training up the endurance.
Yep. But it's cool though that, like, the way the human mind works, it's like things are only impossible until they've been done. So it's like your mind, like, you thought of that as like, oh shit, doing a century, that's crazy until I do it. Now that you've done it, it's quote unquote in your comfort zone. Even though you know you would have to retrain to actually physically do it again, you know that you're physiologically capable of doing it as long as you put in the right training. So it's like it's this mind over matter thing of just knowing that it's like, okay, I have the ability to put this in my comfort zone. Maybe it isn't right now because, you know, I literally couldn't just walk out the door right now and ride a century, but I know what needs to be done, and I'm capable of doing what needs to be done to get that done. I think that the confidence is a big part of that. Yeah,
I've essentially shown myself that it's possible, and a lot of the time people will try to like make their limitations yours, and they'll be like, oh, I can't do that, like or you know, or man, that's crazy. A guy that I work with actually more or less told me he didn't think I was gonna make it. And I think he did that shit on purpose.
Yeah, I think we talked about that before. We're like, you realized afterwards, like, fuck, was he next leveling me? Like,
yeah, because I was like, I can't wait to walk into this dude's office, because I consider him a friend too.
Yeah,
it's like, I can't wait to walk into his office and be like, look at that shit, bitch, I finished.
Yep.
You know, and then I showed it to him, and I could see like a little bit of a smirk, like the corner of his mouth turned up. I was like, you fucking
yeah, he didn't say it, but it read, I knew you could do it, right?
Yeah, and I was like, I mean, like, fuck you, but thanks.
Yeah.
Because I think that, and we've talked about it before, that sometimes I feel like I do better for goals if I feel like there's some enemy I'm raging against.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I kind of feel like the enemy is my disease. So it's like,
I can see that.
I'll be in a wheelchair by the time I'm in my 50s, but it's like, whatever, I'm gonna do this now. Don't you fucking tell me that I can't. And I mean, I think when we were talking on the phone yesterday, I mentioned to you that, like, it's gonna take me a day. Like, it'll probably take me like 22, 23 hours to finish riding 200 miles. Because it took me 11 and a half hours just to do 100. Most people can do it in 8 or 9 that are like in decent shape.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that was just, it's just going to be a lot. But that's the thing, is like, you know, you're right that once I proved to myself it was possible for me, that kind of put it in my comfort zone. I think that a lot of it is like the attitude of, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, try it.
Well, it's the like, as cheesy as it is, I fucking love this quote. I think it was Henry Ford, but it's like, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You're right. You know, the funny thing is, the guy that told me he didn't think I could finish that event, he's the first person I ever heard say that saying. Oh, really? That's interesting. Huh. Yeah. So you can just tell. You can tell by like that, by everything about the dude, that he did that shit on purpose.
Probably.
He's like 73. Like he's old. So he's lived enough that he has like the wisdom that he can, because that was manipulative, but not all manipulation is bad.
Exactly. Yeah. That's like, I think that's a great example of the positive type of manipulation. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I was a little, like, you know, it's like, it's not like a legitimate anger or like a real frustration, but I was kind of like, oh, it's like when a kid does something that's like mischievous, but also kind of cute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, I want to be mad at you, but I mean, you just look so cute doing bad shit. Do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, shit. Yeah. You know what kind of sucks is we're like running low on time, and I still feel like there is a lot to this topic. Like I really think we should do a second episode on this, because I feel like there's a lot to the comfort zone, and I would not feel like we did due diligence if we were to wrap it up at like within the next couple minutes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think we should do like a part 2. Do you want to do it immediately after this, like next week, or do you want to?
I would be down to, yeah. If you're cool with that, yeah.
Yeah, totally, man, totally.
Cool. Okay.
So should I? You know what? I can find 2 quotes.
Okay. I was about to say, yeah. Do you have I guess not a final thought, but a median thought, something that hold us over until we're going to pick this back up, I guess, next time.
Yeah, I have a median thought.
Sweet.
It's what do you have any?
No, I'm really putting it in your court on this one.
Okay, cool.
I was literally going to make up a quote if you didn't have one.
I should just say make one up, but I do have one. So this is a quote by Bruce Lee. Nice. I think I quoted him last podcast. If you always put limits on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits. There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, that is just like we talked about, the idea of your comfort zone is only expanding. Don't look at things as limits. Look at them as opportunities to learn and learn and bring something new into your comfort zone. I like that a lot. Hell yeah. Okay, so with that being said, we've reached the end of another episode of the Metacast podcast. If you guys are watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the conversation, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to keep up to date with what we're doing, and comment below and let us know how you step outside of your comfort zone. If you're interested in further taking part of the conversation, or even joining us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description below. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode live Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylerTV. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have a great week. See ya.